Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Week 3 edition of the JLML podcast. I'm here tonight with our LM Paul and joined tonight by our special guest Connor. You guys played each other this week. How are you guys both feeling after a difficult week for some of us and good week for others? Connor, how about you?
Go ahead, Connor.
I'm feeling pretty good about it. Paul is a team that I've looked up to the last couple of years. I think we're in the division pre-alignment, and he and I were both kind of ranked together reasonably close in preseason predictions. So getting a win like this over him, that I know we might go into more detail later, is really elating, knowing that hopefully my vision for the team is paying off.
And Paul, what's going on?
I'll give a preface for this podcast. I've been dealing with flu all week, so I'm getting better, but that's an explanation for why my voice isn't the sultry, crystal clear that everybody's used to. But in terms of the matchup, yeah, Connor had a great week. Really great pitching that we'll get into, but yeah, hats off. He had a great week, and there's not really much I can say about it. And we'll dive into that and all the rest of them. But yeah, it was a fun week to track, and excited to chop it up.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things happened. Some stuff we didn't expect, some stuff we did. But I guess we'll open it up to the matchup discussions. And since we have you both on here, let's just kick it off with you guys. 773 to 655 in favor of the Sod Poodles over the Tides. Connor, we'll start with you because you won the matchup. What are your thoughts on how your team performed this week?
I think my team's performance is kind of weird. Going into the year, I was very confident that I had built a top 3 to 4 offense in the league, but outside of my top 4 or so pitchers, there were questions to be answered there. So 412 pitching points in a week where Paul actually outscored me offensively, 420 to 361. Is definitely a shock. I do not think that Taj Bradley is going to be a top 5 starting pitcher for the rest of the year, but 67 points in a 2-week start definitely was a help. Jose Soriano kept his as well. And then I'll let, I guess, Max Muncy was kind of the shock of the week, where he had an excellent 1-game performance the night I acquired him, 3 homers in the same game. Jackson Merrill for 51 points. That's honestly probably my favorite personal team takeaway, because I invested a lot in him and he did kind of have a down 2025. So good showing from my team. And then Paul was 4th in scoring. 655 points is a great total for the playoffs. My team just went off unexpectedly. 235 points is certainly competitive. I know in the podcast in the past we've talked about wanting to hit 300, but looking at some other scores around the league, 235 is certainly competitive. And then Jordan Walker, man, top 5 outfielder so far in the league. Wilyer Abreu, always a personal favorite. Bobby Witt with 53 and another solid showing. So I mean, 0-2 is a tough start for Paul, but I think that the Tides have some serious punch, and I can't wait to see what they do the rest of the year.
And Paul?
I'll start by saying that I'm 3rd in scoring on the year. Anybody realize that? I'm 3rd in scoring. You know who the first 2 teams are in scoring? 2 teams I've played so far. I mean, I don't know what to do, like my team's fine, I feel like, but at the end of the day, I'm 0-2, so like, what am I supposed to do here, throw your hands up at the end of the day, I guess, but yeah, Connor said it, like, for me, he talked about his team a lot. I'll talk about my team a little bit here. 420 points from my bats. Pretty good performance. As Connor said, and as Bracton I'm sure is aware, Jordan Walker hit like 10 home runs this week.
Great.
All for naught at the end of the day, but yeah, I mean, I only had 11 starts, really. I know it says 12, but the Kyle Freeland, whatever happened today, and that was what it was. Um, with an extra start there, I get closer to 700 at least. I mean, I wasn't ever going to touch Connor. I mean, his team just went bananas this week. That pitching was just insane. 99 points from Jose Soriano is wild. But yeah, like, you know, when I don't think I had a single 2-start week from really anybody. I know technically Freeland, but not really. Um, and it's tough when you have to get only one start from a Skeens or a Gossman or whoever else is on my team. Um, and in those kind of weeks, it all has to come together, and it has to fit with who I'm facing against. And facing the top scoring team 2 weeks in a row, I mean, it is what it is. It's going to lead to losses. So I'm not discouraged yet, but I do need to start racking some wins here, and hopefully that'll start this coming week.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit most of what I was going to say, but it's the depth pitching here that I think made an impact, a big impact. We've been talking about it for weeks, but I mean, I just want to point out Connor highlighted some of his guys, but 30 points from Anthony Kay, 26 from Ryan Nelson, 23 from Taiwan Walker, who we just keep dumping on, but somehow had a great start this week. And even that made up for the 8-point Logan Webb start. Like, there's depth here that I completely missed at the beginning of the year. I gave Connor major props last week. I'll keep going with it this week. Like, this is a good team and a really legitimate threat that I completely missed. So credit to you, Connor. If Francisco Lindor ever figures out how to play baseball again, I mean that's gonna be a huge help too. Like, it's you got bats that are somewhat struggling with Jazz and Lindor and Cody Bellinger only producing under 20 points each this week, and you still put up 773. So whatever those pitching performances were that we couldn't have seen coming, like the Anthony Kays and the what do you call it, the Taiwan Walkers, those points will get probably reimbursed from the bats waking up. So like there's balance here on both sides, and I really like what you're doing. And Paul, yeah, it's unlucky he played the first couple teams in the league that have been going off, but you stole Jordan Walker from me, so be happy there. That's a huge win. I just
One
every
week.
day when people fucking put Walker bomb in the chat, it takes a piece of my fucking soul out of me. It makes me so mad. But there's that.
1 week.
Yeah, but I mean, there's positives here, Paul. Obviously, so I wish I had gone up 2-0 on you in our bet, though. We're gonna get to that. I'm very upset with myself. But I mean, yeah, well, you know what? Why not? Let's just segue into that. I lost the smell, 543 to 499. Um, Everybody that I thought was going to be great was not great. I don't know what else to say other than people really let me down this week. 11 points from Murakami in what was supposed to be a narrative week is not going to cut it. Um, just, I don't really know what else to say. It's just unfortunate. Smell's team and we both kind of had not great scoring weeks relative to the rest of the league. It wasn't the case like that this entire week. I think on Friday we were both right in the middle of the pack. We just had bad Fridays and Saturdays really, and just you can't take days off in this league. So he pulled out a win. He's 2-0. Good for him. He made a couple good trades this week that we'll talk about, but Larks can't hang if it's going to be like this. I mean, I hate to use him as a measuring stick here, but Nick's Churros only had 437 points this week for the lowest scoring, and then I was next at 499. Like, I don't know how we can go from one week being a top three scoring team and then the next week being the second worst scoring team, but that's what happens, I guess. I know Kate Horton getting hurt kind of sucks for that, but it is what it is. But if I was looking at it though, if someone were to tell, I know it's only been 2 weeks, and I said this in my text chat with John Height and Hen and all them, but if you had told me after the first week, after like the heart of the offseason was done, that I'd have 7 pitchers over 20 points per game, I'd be in first in scoring in my division and be tied for first with John Height and Chad and Emmerich and Jack, I would have said, sign me up. So even if it's 1-1, I'll be okay, and I really want to see how I do against Jab this week because he's started off. What did he lost, right? I think, yeah, Salem Ridge Yanks. All these weird what do you call it, rebrands are messing with me. So it'll be interesting to see because he's pissed off, and maybe we'll see a pissed off Jab trade this week that'll have some massive league implications. But I don't know. We'll see. What do you think about this, Connor?
I mean, just starting off, like, yeah, the fact that you had you were the puck of the league week 1. That was an incredible
15 minutes of
performance.
fame.
So
Yeah.
there was always going to be some regression, and both you and Smelt scored 303 hitting points. So there are still positives. For your team, Chandler Simpson, that profile scares the shit out of me, but 50 points in a week, and the Rays are trusting him enough to bat like first through third instead of the Billy Hamilton, Estuary Ruiz, speedsters that hit 8th or 9th. That dude could be a problem. Luis Robert did solid, just very consistent hitting performances. Otto Lopez with 41, that's been your guy. Just the pitching regressed. Cam Schittler only 29 points in 2 starts. That's not what was expected. Brad Lord with 25 was one of the better pitchers, and pitching is unexpected. So it doesn't help to have under 500 points week 2, but given it as early in the season, I think your team is still in a really great spot. And then for Smell, 240 pitching points, you're under 3 offensively, probably not what he wanted either. And Nick Pivetta, of course, left early with an injury, but there's still quite some positives. Yandy Diaz keeps hitting. Getting Brandon Lau still looks smart. Bryce Harper was 67 after a slow week 1. So El Paso, compared to the rest of the 2-0 teams, does have a fewer points scored, but I'm really curious to see what both your teams do in week 3.
Yeah. Paul.
Yeah. Starting off for you, Bracton, you only had Schlittler with the double start, which I think's interesting. Obviously, I know experience-wise, happened to me too. You know, when you don't get good guys, like at least 2 or 3 of your like top half or so pitchers double starting, really test the depth of your pitching. Which I've said, way back. I think it's a lot better now, but like that would be the true test for your team is how is the bottom half of your pitching? How does it play? Which, everybody has the bottom half, and you could say the same for everybody. Like, how's the bottom half of their pitching play? But, Saccone with a goose egg, Lance McCullers with 2 points, like that's the pitchers that I'm talking about. Like,
Oh
how
no,
do they?
I have no doubt that.
Right. Like how they play determines goes a long way in how, and I'm not just saying for you, that's the same for everybody. And we'll get to Smell in a minute. But that's kind of what I first noticed because your bats were fine. I mean, 303 isn't outstanding, but it's good enough. So yeah,
Yeah,
and then the other thing
Bednar
that
blew 2 saves. Lauer,
Yeah.
SWR went negative.
Right.
Slade went negative. Like all these guys
The
went
other,
negative this week, and that's
right.
unfortunate.
The other,
So,
the
I
other
mean,
part of that is Fairbanks.
oh yeah, he was on a
He didn't
paternity
come in.
list. Yeah.
Right. Which
So,
that factors as well, like
yeah.
that's a 30-year bullpen.
Yep.
Like tough, and you get a save or two out of him and suddenly we're talking about a 10-point game, you know,
Yeah. I mean,
20-point game
that's
maybe.
it.
So
Yeah,
I
have the
mean
Mets being stupid with McLean too, throwing him back out there for that seventh inning. I knew that was going to end poorly. Like
yeah,
that's yeah,
yeah. So
15-point swing. So
for you, it's a dip from week one, and last pod we said, or I said, how does this team look in a 7-day week? And I don't think 499 is where you are. I think you're a lot better than that. Um, so we'll see where it ends up from there. For Smell, I think he did pretty well too. It's kind of wild that you guys tied with batting points. Um, but the difference obviously was pitching. But to go with that, he had 2 starts from Logan Gilbert, and that makes a huge difference. I mean, and I know Schlittler is good for you. It's either him or Miso is your ace, so I understand. But I think Smell made a lot of timely moves this week too. The trade with me last night where he got Gallon. I know that didn't necessarily pay off right away, but it's also losing Adley Rutschman, who's on the injured list now, and he got a 2 start out of Pavetta. I know that Pavetta got hurt earlier today in his start. See how that goes. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a massive difference. So, you know, I think both you guys have good teams. I think both you guys underperformed. I think
yeah,
that's kind of how this week went.
100%, 100%. So now we're going to move on to what many think is the matchup of the week here. It was really close for a while. John Height and Emmerich. Emmerich gets his first win in the league. We'll go back to you, Paul, for your thoughts on this one to open us up.
Which one was it?
John Height and Emmerich.
Right. Okay. First of all, what an upset, I think. I mean, John Heights seems good, and not to say that Emmerich's isn't, but I don't think any of us picked Emmerich to win this matchup last week, or would have. I don't even know if we did matchups. I don't remember.
We did. I don't think
Um,
either of us did pick him.
yeah, I'd be
So
surprised if one of us did, just because of how good uh, Heights team is. Um, Story of this one's the bats, though, for both teams. Both did really, really well. Heights team actually outscored him by 10, 379 and 369. I mean, James Wood, I think we can say is back. I don't know if he ever actually went anywhere, but 99 points in a week, pretty good. Aaron Judge underperformed, 34 points. But it's not as much about, Heights team, 591 is a pretty decent score. 644 is a really good score. And there's a lot to be said for Emmerich and the moves that he made. He's dealt with injuries, kind of like we all have, but to have the prospect depth that he has, while also being able to score 644 points in the first 7-day week, is pretty remarkable. Um, he made some really good moves. That outfield might be the best in the league with Acuna, J. Rod, and Quan. I mean, I'd take that as my outfield right now. If he wants a very hot Jordan Walker and Willier Bray, who's a top 10 outfielder, let me know, Emmerich. I'll sign up for it right now. Um, but yeah, he did really well. I don't know that there's a lot else to say. I'm sure Connor will cover more of the point totals, but yeah, let me just say tip of the cap to Emmerich because that's a very good, and it's also as Connor noted earlier, it's his first win in this league, as he was new this year. So yeah, heck of a team to beat for your first win.
Yeah, Connor, what do you want to add to that?
I mean, for last week, Emmerich did not have a good showing against Cody. It's hard to have a good showing against Cody, but 800 plus points in an extended week compared to 644 points in a 7-day week. Emmerich came back with a vengeance. The hitting is relatively balanced. There are no 99-point outings like James Wood had, but just 30 and 25 pieces all over the place. I'm going to continue the height narrative of the pitching's just not doing it like he would have hoped for. Negative starts from Max Scherzer and Fromber for minus 31 and only 212 pitching points total. Emmerich had 275, which is a much better total compared to the rest of the league. Matthew Boyd being injured and Reynaldo Lopez gained suspensions is not going to help height for next week either. So, yeah, 591 points, nothing to sniff at, and there certainly is no, hopefully, alarms going off in Hartford. But I do think this is an excellent showing by Emmerich. And to Paul's point, the combination of his bats, a couple of the arms, and his prospect and pick pool is terrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that, when we were talking about John Haidt last week, we were saying that he got a win even without Judge and Ohtani being at their best, and Ohtani was at his best this week. He got him 81 points in 7 days, and it wasn't enough to pull this out because people let him down. Like negative 15 from Framber Valdez. That's not going to happen every week, obviously. And then Scherzer's negative 16 and injured. That kind of sucks. Like, I think that we were talking a lot about last week about bullpens and about how amazing and helpful they can be if you actually have one. Look at Emmerich getting 11 from Carmen. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to try. But Helsley, Griffin Jacks, Emilio Pagan, and this dude Hart, like 25, 19, 25, 11, 15. And he won the pitching battle by like 60 points. And that's the difference right there. When we were saying he outscored his bats by 10, Emmerich's bullpen won him this game based on those numbers. So maybe we see John Haidt try to move for a closer too. I always think that they're the kind of the last piece that a real competing team tries to go after. But I mean, this week is just a perfect example of, you know, bullpens being valuable and making an impact in a close game with real implications on the line. And then Emmerich's bats finally woke up and did something that he wanted them to do, you know? Like we were talking about all that last week. Julio Rodriguez, 33, bounce back, 51 from Acuna. Nito matched C.J. Abrams, and Abrams is the second best shortstop in fantasy. So, like, Emmerich got what he needed, and it really paid off. So good for him. All right, we're gonna move on to the Bowling Green Hot Rods and Sugarland Space Cowboys, now formerly Nashville Sounds and Tita. I'll start us off with this. I was following it for most of the week. Tita avoided some landmines by trading me some negative starts, so that helped him out a little bit, and it was a little bit closer than maybe we all thought, as it was only, I think, 109 if I'm doing my math right. So maybe a little closer than Cody expected, but he got the win, and all of his pitchers pretty much did well except for Kodai Senga. Everything else, and Shane Baz, everything else looked okay. He had some good streams. Like Cody's gonna stream. Cody's gonna get the players he needs to get to work around and win. But 75 from his franchise player Gunnar Henderson's what he wants to see. I know for sure. And if he was on tonight, I'm sure he would be telling us about how great Gunnar is. And 38 from Drake Baldwin. We continue the praise there. And then Kurtz woke up a little bit with 35. Like, things were clicking for him on the weekend. I noticed. So like starting Friday, Saturday, he was really starting to pull away. His players were hitting home runs and everything. So we'll see how he does next week. I don't know who he plays off the top of my head, but 2-0, everything's solid there. So not much to complain about if I'm him. Tita just keeps doing what Tita's doing, makes trades and sends out players he doesn't want for players he does want, fills needs. I mean, look at 26 from Javier Assad again. Positive starts from Hancock and Foster Griffin. Like, Tita has some good depth pitching, and people will be hitting him up for it. I know I was trying to. I got the wrong ones, but the idea was there. So we'll see what Tita does moving forward. But it's interesting that he kept up with Cody's pitching. It was 223 to 205. So I maybe that's a little bit concerning, but it's still an over 100-point win for Cody. So we'll go to Connor now. What do you think about this matchup?
When I think of the hot rod, I think of quality young pitching. It's usually close to class league for pitching. So if I'm going to critique John Haidt for only having 212 pitching points, I'm going to point to Cody as well for 223, making it much closer than it needs to be. His pitching was solid across the board, but 610 points is a little bit lower than some of the best teams we're seeing these first 2 weeks. And the injuries to Hunter Brown, Trey Savage, now he has Imai. It does seem like those are adding up. So, yes, of course, 387 bat points is fantastic, and Gunnar and O'Neal Cruz are largely responsible for that. But I have to imagine that the Bowling Green front office isn't too happy with the point total. And then for Tita, I think he acknowledged that this was going to be a tougher matchup, and we give the GM a ton of credit, understandably, but it is difficult to piece together a roster that can beat Cody, especially after such a intense matchup with Smell the week prior. So 501 points, maybe around what we expected each week from the then Sounds and now Sugarland Space Cowboys. I do think Tita's going to do better than this, but 296 offensive points, that's just not going to be competitive in this league typically.
And Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, Cody's not here to sing the praises of Gunnar Henderson, so I will. 4 home runs this week. I love Gunnar. There's nothing else I can say. I just love Gunnar. Yeah, his bat's been crazy. 387, pretty good. But yeah, Connor touched on what I was gonna say, which is the pitching. I have experience with it as well because I just did it myself, trading for a guy that immediately has injured, and that's what Cody did with MI, trading Bradish for MI, and then like an hour or two, I feel like after that trade happened, it came out that MI was getting sent back to Houston for imaging. I think it was his arm, so not great there. I'm sure Cody would say the same. Not great there, but he still has top end guys that are very good. And my belief is that top end guys can make up for a lot of deficiencies. Top end guys plus, in my opinion, the best top to bottom bats in the league. So yeah, I know Cody was sweating this. I know, Thursday night, Friday night, he was not at all sure that this was going to go his way. But also the one I really wanted to highlight real quick was O'Neal Cruz. Start of the week, he made a big deal, big swing for O'Neal Cruz, and it netted him 68 points. Those kind of moves when they work out really make a big difference. And his outfield is just, in my opinion, just absolutely stacked. 3 of those guys I owned, I think, at the same time 2 weeks ago with DeLauder, Green, and Cruz. So yeah, I think he's got a good team. 1-1 on the season now, I think, because he lost last week.
No, he didn't. He's 2-0.
He beat
he's
Emmerich.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cody's a top 3 roster in this league, and now he's got a top record. So I think he's doing just fine.
And Connor, what do you think?
We already touched on it.
Already gave
Oh,
my
did
opinion.
we? My fault. I'm sorry.
Let me
Um,
real quick. Let me touch on Tita's team. Because I glossed over it. Tita, I mean, we all know what Tita does. He makes trades left and right, top to bottom, all the time. So it's even hard to understand like which of these guys that I'm looking at are still there. But I know Carter Montero. I gave him away for pennies basically. I picked him up in free agency, so to get anything for him was better than nothing. But 41 points in his start. I like Carter Montero. I think he's a good pitcher. I know he has this opportunity based on injury, but I think he's a good pitcher that can stick around. We'll see what he can do here in the next couple starts because I think those are pretty crucial for him. But yeah, Tita makes lots of trades, and the Trout one as well that he made with me, 29 points and 11 at bats, pretty good. Um, so yeah, Tita's gonna terrorize any team that he plays between the weeks of 1 and 18, because that's what he does. That he finds good matchups. He exploits pitching matchups. He exploits hitting matchups. And he's very good at what he does. So I know he got the loss this week. I know that he has a dim view of the 2026 now Space Cowboys. And one thing real quick, the whole rebranding thing, I know it's fun and all, but like I learned these teams and associate them with owners and teams, and you guys keep switching up on me, and it's just like give me a break here. I'm trying to learn, and now you guys get me flustered all the time. But it's fun, and I appreciate it. And you guys are doing a great job. So um, go Space Cowboys, I guess.
no, yeah, it's hard to picture Tita as anything but the Nashville Sounds, and
He's
hopefully
been them
that
forever.
I know. Hopefully, maybe he'll listen to this and be like, all right, whatever. But we'll see. We'll go pivot now to the Chad and Nick matchup. Chad won 575 to 437. Connor, will have you kick this one off.
I won't spend too much time on this one because just given how Nick's team was set up going into the year, it was a conclusion that Chad was probably going to win this. And 575 points is a very solid score for what a hopeful playoff team is. 314 offense, 261 pitching. The balance is there. So Andy Paz is 44 points. He crushed me the week prior. So I really think that Chad acquiring him is really going to turn into one of the better offseason acquisitions. And the Churros keep working that prospect and pick pool, man. Nick's done great work, but he recognized that the previous team wasn't going to get done, and he's had a couple of rough weeks. 437 points is 60 below the next lowest total. So I think Nick's doing fine as a GM, but there are tough times in San Jose.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of how I was last year, as far as, having a lot of kind of high upside bats that you can look to trade or kind of develop a little bit. I see he had a really rough week from Cags, only had 9 points for him, which is borderline droppable. If its name wasn't Jack Caglione with his pedigree, that kind of is unfortunate. But what he has that I didn't this year is pitching a little bit. I mean, Micah Bell had 29, Jack Koch had 29, Parker Messick had 36. Like there are and three bullpen arms over 15 to 20 here. Like there's some guys that Nick has, and he made some deals this week, capitalizing on some of them, and that's exactly what he's got to keep doing. He's going to build the prospect and pick pool, like you mentioned, Connor, and he's just going to keep getting people for guys he picks up off waivers or people who are hot starts. He's just trying to build his farm, and I respect what he's doing. So with Chad, I've been very critical of this team. I've mentioned how I'm not as high on him as others are, to put it that way. 314 bat points is okay, like we've been talking about, but the pitching at 261 and negative outings from Reagans, from Leiter, from Louder, only 14 from Connolly early. Like, I don't know, man. I don't see it with this team. I really don't. I'm just going to be honest. And Chad's going to say, oh, I hate the comments in the chat tomorrow. I don't. But I don't think this is a playoff team. And seeing it this week after next week or after last week, I'm not moved like I am with your team, Connor. Like it's not the same conversation, but we have the same record. Um, I've scored only 30 more points than him, so I can't really be talking. But we'll see. I think that there's a lot of one-on-one teams in this division that we're in here, and I think that as we get farther along, then some of them are going to rise, some of them are going to fall, obviously, and we're going to see who those are. But I'm not a huge believer in the Comets. Let's just say. So um, I keep forgetting who I said to talk. Paul, I think.
Next.
Did I get it? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
I'm next.
Yeah.
And as the resident believer in the Comets, I will spin it and reverse it back to you, Bracton. Chad scored 575 points this week. He did that with -9 from arguably his second best pitcher, with Cole Reagans. He did that with -10 combined points between Rhett Lauder and Jack Leiter. And he did that with only 7 points in 25 at-bats from Vinny P. If he gets average performances out of those guys, he's probably at about 650.
I mean, we could say that about that, and we can go 35 from Cade Povich, 34 from Joey Cantillo, 32 from Dustin May. Like
Cade Povich is in their rotation now in Baltimore.
Okay.
So I'm not saying he's a 35-point pitcher, but
39 points from Brandon Williamson. Like, I don't know. It's a lot.
Fair. It's fair.
It'll balance itself out. He had a good week and he won a matchup. That's what we need to do here. So I'm not banking on him for that.
I also wonder how opponent driven his point total was. As it's been said, and I think even Nick would attest to it, that his team isn't necessarily competing this year for wins. I mean, if you're up by 100, 150 on Saturday, maybe you forget to set your lineup. I'm not saying that was the case. I have no idea. I know he got to 12 starts. So
I hope not. I don't think that would be. Because
I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying Chad's a bad arm or anything like that. But I mean, I don't know. I still believe in that team. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Langford and what happened to him injury wise. But I mean, Sammy V for at least the next week is going to be getting everyday starts without Adley. And again, I'm looking at his pitching, and there's a lot of 1-start guys. I think I see Just Williamson's a 2-start guy. So yeah, and plus he has, and for me, he has the best reliever in baseball with Mason Miller. So, and he only had 31 he didn't have a save this week. So, I don't know. I like his team a lot. And Nick's team is what it is. I don't want to spend too much time on that either, but yeah, there's definitely some good pieces there. As Bracton said, it looks a lot like the Larks did last year. But I think there's a bit more scoring potential, I'll say. Just because I like some of those arms that he has, I like some of the bats that he has. Not that I didn't like anything you had last year, Bracton. Obviously, it's
I
led
don't even
to.
remember what I had last year.
Oh,
It's just like,
my point being that you had guys that were just young that have kind of grown into a role that I think is a similar thing with what Nick's doing, but his is more prospect driven versus you were young pieces driven.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I like what he has. I mean, I play him this week, but hopefully I can get a win. But yeah, I like Chad's team more, I guess, than some.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to the Clearwater Beach Dogs versus Jack's Greensboro Grasshoppers. Hen Dog with a defiant win here, 736 to 564. Connor, will open with you. What do you think about uh, the defending champs rolling, it appears?
I mean, yeah, they're only 20, 30 points away from being the high scorer 2 weeks in. 457 offensive points. This is exactly what we expect from the Beach Dogs. Jordan Alvarez acquisition in the offseason paying off with 46 points. Taylor Ward with 49. Just solid performances all around. Pitching wise, 279, which under 300, it's not wow, but I think with Zach Wheeler out, especially, that's a very solid score for Jack. The narrative is pitching health and 201 points. That's just not going to usually do it for a hopeful playoff team. 363 offensive points, completely fine. George Springer got injured, so that might take a little bit of a dent. And then he was later traded to Cita. South Stewart with 60 points looks like the real deal. So I think Jack's kind of tied in between how much he wants to compete now versus with Hargents and South Stewart, JJ Weatherholt trying to keep it going for future years. I'm curious how much Jack tries to go all in at this point versus maybe holding back a little for next year. The Greensboro Grasshoppers are 1-1 with a bottom 5 point output the first 2 weeks, and as you mentioned, Hen's team's just rolling.
Yeah. Paul, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, this matchup was very, very close Friday and even early Saturday. Like, I know Ken and all that. His team's good. I think it's number one in scoring. If I had to look again. Um, but yeah, like 457 bat points. I know I said earlier that I think Cody has the best bats top to bottom. I'm sure he'll have a comment on that. But obviously very good. Very good performance. Can't knock it. Top to bottom, he performed very well. Had 2 starts from Joe Ryan. Um, yeah, there's not really much I can say about Hen's team. He knows how good it is. For Jack, he's got really good young pieces, man. And Connor hit on it with Jensen, Stewart, Weatherholt, like really good young pieces. And we've hit on the health of his pitching before. Hasn't changed really, which is unfortunate. Because I think with healthy pitching, this is a top 5 team. But at the end of the day, you can only go with what you got. And you know what Jack has right now probably isn't a playoff team. I'm not saying it can't get there. Pitching health gets better for him second half. Who knows what happens? But yeah, like There's a lot to like there for Jack. And we'll see what happens going forward here. But yeah, I like what he's got, especially with his bats, and I think there's a lot to be pretty happy with and pretty content with there.
Yeah, I mean, as the resident Beach Dog supporter on the podcast here, I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, 30 points from Freed like he's supposed to. 61 from Ryan is a much better rebound from past week. 37 from Ranger Suarez, 29 from Ryan Weathers. Those depth guys did what they were supposed to do um, for him. And I had always said I liked his top 8 to 9 pitchers. I really thought that he was doing something there. But also, I'm going to harp on it. Bullpen points 13, 11, 15, 9, 11. Like getting good value from his stream relief pitchers that he keeps picking up. So maybe he doesn't need a closer. We were talking about that last week where, Hen and John Haidt could do well by acquiring closers. Maybe not. Maybe we just keep streaming people because that's a lot better than my 3 closers did this week. So good on Hen for doing, what he is always doing. But I think what we've been talking about with Jack is accurate. We said it in the preseason podcast, I think, Paul, where if he had fully healthy pitching, would anybody question that this is a top 3 to 5 roster in the league? And the answer is no, like it is. But he just is the San Francisco 49ers of this league where everybody just keeps dying and there's nothing you can do about it. So I hope that, he gets his pitching right and maybe he and I will connect on a big deal. We've been talking some crazy stuff in the last couple of weeks. I haven't told many people about it, but we'll just drop a little nugget here on the podcast that JJ Weatherholt's name is not entirely off the block. So I'm gonna stir the pot up a little bit and maybe have Jack get some PMs there. But I've been pushing, and that's just because I love the young bats that he's assembled. I mean, Bry legend Mikhail Garcia, 42 points. Old Freddie still going, 37 points. Like he's got great bats. Like we all keep saying, Sal Stewart 60, Carter Jensen 45. Like just get these pitchers back so we can watch the Grasshoppers just ball. I'm rooting for Jack. He's my guy. I want to see him win, but not this week against 10. So we're gonna move on to our last matchup here, which is the shocker and the upset of the week, which is why I'm saving it. I saved it for the last. Scott, and I'm not even gonna. What is this team called now? The Eugene Exploding Whales. Okay, that's just okay. We've had a Richmond Flying Squirrels in this league since basically day one, so it's very weird to see this new rebrand. But it's paying off for him though. 703 to 572 over Jab. Not just a creep by win, a statement win for Scott. Makes me glad I got him in the first week here before he could figure it out. But just absolutely rolling. 59 points from Nico Horner. Looks like one of the best fantasy second basemen you can have. Kevin McGonigal is legit. 57 points. 34 from reliable Randy. 57 for Raymond Laureano. Like 442 bat points is insane. Outscores Jab's amazing bat collection that we've talked about as the undisputed top 3 bats in the league. He outscored him by over 130. That's ridiculous, right? And the pitching that we all were talking about with Jab and him tied exactly 261 to 261. Like this is a statement win for Scott. And if the season progresses and he keeps winning games, we're going to look at this as the start of something here. And I feel bad for not even giving him a chance. We all looked really stupid last week, just saying, "Oh yeah." I think even Cody legitimately says, "All right, guys, we're going to talk about Scott and Jab. Do we think Scott has a chance?" And we were all like, "No," and he's like, "All right, next." Like we gotta start really giving Scott some flowers and some credit here because What a statement. Paul, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm sure Scott. I don't know what his listening record is with this podcast, but I can promise you he's listening to this one just to kind of dunk on us a little bit, which absolutely it's deserved. This is by far, I think, Scott's best week that he's had since he's joined this league. And yeah, he deserves it because listen, I'll start with McGonagall. Like it's a guy that Scott went out, got, and has held on to. And I say that he probably isn't letting him go anytime soon. And he shouldn't. McGonagall's a great bat. That's a ton of points with the bats, 442. I don't know if I ever thought I'd see that day come for Scott. So shout out Scott. He did really, really well. His pitching did really, really well. His bullpen, if you notice that, 66 points, pretty impressive, especially given the names there, Sranthony Dominguez, Jordan Romano, and Eric Sabrowski. Like, not really big name guys, but what, 3 saves and 2 hold between them. Better than my bullpen. So yeah, like a lot to be proud of there for Scott. Now for Jab, I don't think there's a lot that he should be holding his head on. I know he lost this week. I know 572 is not what he expects for his team. If I had that team, it's not what I would expect either. But like at the end of the day, like, Chase Burns, -7. I'm living with that if I have Chase Burns. It's not ideal, but that's an elite pitcher in the making. If you ask me, at least. Scooble did his thing. 2 starts, 44 points. It's pretty good. 2 starts for Woodruff, 35 points. But I mean, at the end of the day, too, like I can't say, his pitching did good because I've said it all podcasts that when you have your aces go 2 starts, it makes a difference. And yet, he had Sale, Scooble, and Woodruff all have 2 starts each, and he still had under 300 points from pitching. I mean, so maybe I'm not right about this. Maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way. But I still think at the end of the day, there's a lot to like here. Like if I'm him, there's not a chance that I'm like blowing anything up. Maybe you move a piece here or there. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But like Salvador Perez, I want to highlight him. Last thing I'll do here, real quick, and then I'll hand it off to Connor. He had 1 point in 25 at bats. Like, that is historically bad. And for a guy like Salvador Perez, certainly not something you expect week in and week out. He does his normal thing. He's probably over 600. I'm not saying it gets him the win. It probably still doesn't. But I don't know. I think that Jab is still either the best or the second best top to bottom roster, just looking at names. And so like I know like you can't say on paper because technically, literally we play on paper. But yeah, I if I'm Scott or if I'm Jab, I'm just taking this what it was. Unfortunate week. Your opponent went bananas, and you look to next week. That's kind of what I say that as because that's what I'm doing. Losing to Connor, losing to Hen, they were the top scoring teams. There's nothing I can do about that. Like, I can go in a time machine and make the schedule different, but other than that, there's really not much I can do. So, but one more time, props to Scott. Great week.
Yeah, well, if Jab loses to me, you should just burn everything down at that point. Like
Oh, he plays against me?
yeah, he'd be 0-3 if he loses to me. So that would be, and I have Mizurowski, Gavin Williams, and Cavalli on 2 start weeks too. So
Oh boy.
I don't know
Upset
about
what?
Cavalli, but like I trust Cavalli can get above 10, so I'm going to start him twice. So we'll see. But Connor, go ahead and finish us off on the matchups this week.
Our first 6 matchups are talking about owners that do a lot of wheeling and dealing for the most part, and Jab and Scott are the two GMs I think of the most when it comes to staying pat, not making moves unless they clearly think it's gonna benefit their team either now or definitely in the long run. For Jab, same thing as like Bracton's loss, same thing as Paul's loss. It's week 2. Paul pointed out the 2 starts. Like when going through Jab's roster, we can't really look at anything that quote unquote went wrong. It's just that Scott had a 700-point week outing seemingly out of nowhere. So for Jab, yeah, nothing too much there. For Scott, it's the Flowers week. The fact that you're matching Jab's pitching with 261 points is incredible. I remember last year when it felt like Casey Mize, Brady Singer, Mitch Keller, and there really wasn't much else for the then Flying Squirrels pitching wise. Now the Exploding Whales very clearly have more talent. Emmett Sheehan, a potential frontline rotation arm. Andrew Painter shows a -4 this week, but sandwiched in between that are 2 20-point starts who could reel. He and Bubba Chandler were the 2 best pitching prospects last year, so that could be huge. And then the bats. I'm not going to get into point totals, but a well-rounded effort, and that's with Royce Lewis, the usual starting third baseman or utility for Scott's team, going on the injured list halfway through the week. So really impressive for Scott. He's been patient with a lot of these dudes. Gets Painter, gets McGonigal, does not trade them, never traded Horner, and I know it could just be a 1 week showing, but I hope that we see a little bit of more of this from the Exploding Whales in future weeks.
Yeah, we're going to get to who Scott and everybody else plays in a little bit, but for now, we're going to move to our deals section of our podcast for the week. I'm just going to scroll up here. I'm going to go on my phone and look at it. But do you guys have any off the top of your head that you think you guys want to talk about just to get it going while I pull it up, Paul?
Yeah, real quick. I'll just say the couple I made. Smell fleeced me yesterday. Traded me Adley Rutschman. Who like literally I think an hour later, I saw the alert that he was scratched and went on the injured list. So good job me on that one. Then my trade with Tita, where I gave him Sam Antonacci and Bishop Letson for Tyone. So they reported that Antonacci was getting called up the same day that Schultz was. But then I saw another tweet today that said that that's not yet true, that they haven't yet decided if that's going to happen or not. So it makes me feel a little bit better about that trade, especially after today. Tyone got 10 Ks. In the literally the weirdest stat line I've ever seen from a pitcher. 6 innings, 6 runs, and 10 strikeouts. Thought that was crazy. Other than that, there wasn't any like real massive ones. I guess real quick, I guess the one that where I gave Tita Moises Ballesteros. He gave me Sean Burke, Nelson Rada, and Luis Perales. I've always been a Sean Burke fan. Um, he did pretty well against the Orioles. Was the Wednesday. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Moises Ballesteros at the end of the day. Like, he's a designated hitter. He's not going to catch. He's just going to be a DH, maybe play some first base. The guy hits everything. He's a really, really good hitter. If he can step into like 2025 home runs, that's a really good bat, I think. But being positionally limited, I feel like you have to be like Kyle Schwarber or close to it. And I just don't think Moises Ballesteros ever does that. So I like what I got there, especially because I like Luis Perales a lot. I know he's had a rough start to his season so far this year with control, but I really think he can be like a good closer in the future. He's got really good stuff, really good speed. Um, so yeah, those are just the couple that I made. I mean, we can bring up some other ones, Bracton, but now that you had a chance to look, maybe if you wanted to highlight a couple.
Yeah, April 7th, 10:45 p.m. The worst trade ever that cost me the week. Simeon Woods Richardson and Eric Lauer for Noelvi Marte and Drew Jones. I am I can't stand those two pitchers. I can't wait to trade them. They suck and I hate them. If I had just started Walker Buehler and Chris Paddock and not made that trade at all, I would have won. So that sucks. But what do you call it? I have those two guys now. Tita offered me a worst and a canceled worst for Simeon Wood Richardson. I'm probably going to end up doing it because he's not factored into my starts this week. So just want to mention that little fucking trade that I hate. I did more debt consolidation and outfield consolidation this week. Paid off some stips that I didn't have to pay off for a while just because I don't like being in debt. But the one trade I do kind of want to talk about that I made was uh, reacquiring Jacob Marcy and Mason Wynn for Ezekiel Tovar, Carson Williams, and Lance McCullers. Um, I like Jacob Marcy a lot. I watch a lot of Marlins games because I have Otto Lopez and I had AC for a while, so I had a lot of stock in the Marlins. And when I did, Marcy was just very unlucky. Just like stuff that happens to him that you can't make up. Like he'll hit a fucking laser right into the third baseman's glove. He'll hit a foul ball barely by some sort, or he'll strike out because the ABS is like an inch off or something. Like it's just this bad luck seems to follow this guy. I don't know why, but if he can break out of that, I've seen what he can do. Where it's 8 points like today, just before you know it, top of the first inning, Marcy has 8 points. Like I really like him. I think that he's a good outfielder, and he was one I regretted trading, and I just dismantled my outfield trading him, O'Neal Cruz, and Jordan Walker, and he hasn't made me look as dumb as the other two have. But I'm glad to have him back for a kind of mid shortstop downgrade. Like Tovar and Wynn are kind of similar in that regard, and then Carson Williams, I have Volpe and now Mason Wynn, so I didn't really need the shortstop. And Lance McCullers, I kind of have 4 or 5 arms that are Lance McCullers esque as far as bottom of the rotation guys go. So I like this trade for me and Tita. He gets more flippable assets and everything. Maybe I'll trade for Tovar back. We've had conversations, but those are just the ones that I made that I like. I have a couple more that I involve other people, but Connor, if you want to go ahead first and talk about any ones you made specifically before we kind of go into the rest of the league.
I mean, I don't have any trades I specifically made that I think we need to talk about. Yes, there's a lot of fanfare for me trading a worst for Max Muncy, but yes, he had a lucky game, but trading a worst for a 35-year-old third baseman is not a league shaker. So I'd say we can go with some of the bigger ones that don't involve us.
Okay. Well, the first one I want to talk about then is the Kyle Bradish for in my trade 1-for-1. Cody gets Amai, Smell gets Kyle Bradish. I'll start us off. You guys know I'm not a huge Kyle Bradish fan. I've liked Amai for a while and I've been trying to get him. I know he just got hurt and everything, but I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that I would rather have Amai long term than Bradish. Um, just because I'm just not a big Bradish fan. He's never healthy, never plays, and when he does play, he's pretty good, but not this year. So I don't know. it's an interesting 1-for-1 swap. If I was Smell, I would have asked for a little bit more, like maybe a worst or on top of it. But if both guys like the guy they're getting better, then who am I to judge? But I think I would much rather have Imai. Paul, let's go to your direct counter of that because
Even though MI is basically dead.
he'll be coming back at some point. What?
Will he?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I it was an arm injury, right? I haven't looked, to be honest. So I don't want to say anything like that, but like I mean, the whole Bradish narrative I think is kind of crazy, but we've hashed this out before. Um yeah, with Amai, we don't know anything about him. He came over from overseas. This is his first taste of Major League Baseball. I mean, what if he's like Daisuke Matsuzaka? Like, I'm not. Daisuke had. It's a while ago now, but he had a lot more hype than MI did. I feel like, but it happens where you know, Japanese pitchers come over here and they're overwhelmed by Major League hitting. So, I mean, we've seen it from Bradish. We've seen him succeed. Um, so I don't know. I said it to Cody when he made the trade because he asked me afterwards what I thought. Um, I think they're both fine. I think they're both going to be fine. I think it's largely preference. Um, but at the end of the year, it wouldn't surprise me if their point per game totals were within a point or two of each other. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's more preference than it is somebody won, somebody lost. That's kind of my thought.
Fair. Connor, you have any thought on that one?
I'm taking Bradish any day of the week. I just pulled up Bradish's StatCast. Current ERA 5.27, expected ERA 3.13. For short sample size, he's had 3 or 4 starts. He's proven it. And to Paul's point, I do not like the variance that comes from foreign players signing in the major leagues. So I'm going Brash. I get it from both sides, but I'm taking the Brash. I think Smell did great.
Okay, well, we'll talk about another deal that Smell made where he got Dylan Cruz from Tita for Christian Javier, Ava Arquette, and Esmeralyn Valdez. Um, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think that Smell got a really good deal here, given what Cruz had been going for prior to this trade and the hype that Tita was putting around him for a potential trade. Not to say that Tita didn't do well because I know he loves Ava Arquette, and I think he got a good deal for Esmeralda Valdez later on in the week. I don't remember, but I think that happened. But um, I don't know if Dylan Cruz hits. Obviously, that's going to be a huge player and huge get for Smell. We're seeing what Jordan Walker's doing, and Dylan Cruz had even more pedigree than that. So I believe in Cruz to turn it around. I think Smell got a really good deal there. Y'all have any thoughts on this or?
I don't know. I mean, Jordan Walker had a lot of pedigree. I'll say that about Jordan Walker. It's why I was so interested in him. But for this deal, and I said it to Tita a couple times, I feel like Dylan Cruz is the best player for Tita given his situation. Like, just wait on that guy, like, and see what he can do. You know, he's. I'm not saying that he has no pedigree. He has a ton of pedigree. Um, but I think Tita self admits that he's not a playoff team this year. Why not see what you have in him? Maybe he's like your stud outfielder, you know? I don't know. I mean, in terms of the trade itself, whenever you can get 3 for a guy that has to be on your pro roster and is in the minors, to me that's immediately at least a win. Um, the second Dylan Cruz gets called up, I think I like it better for Smell. But I don't know. I mean, I'm more disappointed that Tita got rid of a guy that I thought. This is the same thing I've done with you before, Bracton, where like in the past you've traded a guy that's like perfect for the situation that you're in. And I know I've done it too, but like it's those guys that like it's those trades that just make me like you could just if you just sat and did nothing, you're in a better spot. But I don't know. I do like the at least Arquette, you know, I like him a lot. I like Valdez, I think's a pretty good prospect for Pittsburgh. And Javier, I think he just got hurt.
Yeah, he's been
But you know,
hurt, I think.
yeah. I mean at the time, you know, it's I don't hate it value wise. I hate it situation wise.
Yeah, Connor, do you have any thought on that?
There were 2 deals this week where I was shocked that a GM was making that kind of positional switch. The first one was the Paul Rushman Gallon deal, trading a starting pitcher that, in my opinion, was in Paul's top 5 for Adley's utility bat. And the second one was this Dylan Cruz one. If Smell is committed to competing, it does not make sense for me to him to roster a player that we do not know the time frame for when he's getting called up. As Bracton knows, Joey Weimer's been on a hot streak. There's still James Wood and some other decent pieces in the Nationals outfield, and I don't remember Cruz lighting up the minors the last 2 weeks. So yes, if Cruz goes on a 2-week run in the majors, this looks good for Smell. But in the meantime, Tita got 2 top 60 prospects for a wasted roster spot. So I get Paul's point of holding on to Cruz and seeing what you have, but Tita improving his prospect pool works there. I think Smell's making a unnecessarily risky call by having him on the roster just as a bench player he can't get points for when El Paso's 2-0. They're going for it. Why take this chance now?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. I only have one more deal to talk about. I don't know if you guys want to touch on any more, but I'm going to touch on Tita getting Francisco Alvarez and Yin Lin for Caden Scarborough and Alejandro Kirk. I think this is the perfect move for Nick. He has a lot of good young catchers already, and he didn't really need Francisco Alvarez. So to take the downgrade of Kirk from Alvarez, who most people might not even think that is even a downgrade if both of them are healthy and playing, um, to get a pitcher like Caden Scarborough, I think that's a really good, solid, underrated move for Nick. And I think he made a couple more of those that we don't really need to touch on in the pod, but I think that that one deserves to be highlighted as a good move for Nick. If you guys have any thoughts on that, real quick, Paul.
Yeah, I love Kane Scarborough. I've been after him. Tita can attest. I've been after him since he got him, which I know was only what like a week ago, if that.
A couple hours ago. Oh, from Tita? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh,
when
he's in the O'Neill Cruz trade. So earlier
that's what it
this
was.
week.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it was. And I was after Cody, or I was after him from Cody before that. And I'll try with Nick. I certainly this week I don't think I'll get him, but yeah, I like Kane Scarborough a lot, and like you said, I think the difference between a healthy Kirk and a healthy Alvarez is not very large. So yeah, I think Nick did pretty well there. I think that's exactly the kind of moves that Nick should be making.
For sure. Connor, you have any thought on that one?
I have no thoughts on the catcher one. I'm a Kirk guy, so I think Nick did just fine there. The one deal I would like to touch on is the other Kane Scarborough one, which is Cody getting O'Neill Cruz for an absolute haul. That almost single-handedly won him the matchup. Cody won by 100 points versus Tita, and O'Neill Cruz scored 67. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out in the long run.
And I didn't think that trade was part of this week, but I'm looking at it now, and you're right. So my bad to Cody if he was waiting to hear our thoughts on that one. Everybody knows my thoughts on O'Neal Cruz. I love him. I sold too early. I kick myself every day for trading Cruz and Walker when I shouldn't have. So is what it is. But we have roughly 45 minutes left in the podcast of recording time, so we're going to get going on our week 3 projections. We'll kick it off with Paul, your matchup against Nick. I don't think that any of us are going to pick Nick, but we want to hear kind of your thoughts on how you want this week to go as far as your expectations for your team.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm 0-2, so I mean, I haven't gotten a win yet, but I don't know. He's also 0-2. So, I mean, the reality is, yeah, I should win. I should win. I have Skeens on a double start. I have Kevin Gossman on a double start. I said earlier, Noah Schultz is getting called up Tuesday. To be determined if I'll call him up. I'm not sure what I want to do there yet.
I could trade him to me. That could be all right.
You can get him. You know exactly how you can get him, Bracton.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it. We'll see.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should win. I'll never. I feel like I can never say it though at this point that I should win because, you know, things always happen. I feel like in this league where teams that should. I mean, look at Jab. Nobody thought that Scott would do what he did to Jab this past week. So, yeah, this league's crazy competitive. I mean, we've said it. You know that Nick's team is like Bracton's team last year. Bracton went 0-20 last year. I still don't think that Nick's gonna go over this year, but we'll see.
I think he
I
might,
mean,
man. I don't know.
he might. I don't think he will. I think he's got enough players there that he'll pick somebody off. But I just hope it's not me. That's all I can say. I just hope it's not me.
Well, we'll see. Connor, what do you think?
Justin Crawford is facing some shitty pitching against the Cubs and Braves. My hot take is he could be on cycle watch. If he doesn't have a cycle, Paul's winning this.
Damn it, Connor. Why would you even? Oh,
that one got an audible laugh out of me, man.
Hold on.
I had to break character for that one.
Hold on. Justin Crawford, I had an offer, and Jack can attest. He offered me Crawford for Moises Ballesteros, 1-for-1. And I think Connor knows this too, because I asked him for advice on it. 1-for-1, right before the season started. And I said no because I like Ballesteros' bat better. And like 3 days later, I was like, oh man, like I don't know if Ballesteros will ever get catcher eligibility because and I told this to Jack. I was like, I'm gonna hold on to Ballesteros because I'm hoping he gets a few games at catcher and starts a few games at catcher. That's why I held him. And so he trades him to Nick like a few days later, and then I go to Nick and I'm like, "Hey, Ballesteros for Crawford, what do you think?" And he's like, "Yeah, no thanks." And so now for Connor to put out in the damn ether that Crawford is going to hit for a cycle, I swear, Connor, I swear, better not happen, or I'm driving.
Dude, Parker Messick's going to throw a no hitter, and Justin Crawford's going to hit for the
Everything needs to stop. Everything needs to stop. You guys are killing me right now.
I did not believe in Justin Crawford going into the year. I do not like the speed first profiles, but he's looked good the first couple weeks.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the next matchup here. I'm pulling it up. Sorry. Let's do Hen versus Chad. I'll start us off here. Chad can prove me wrong this week. I'll eat shit if he comes on and wins against Hen this week. I'm gonna come on next week. Oh wait, no, I won't. Sorry guys, I'm gonna be off this pod next week. It's my girlfriend's birthday, so I will be missing next week. Maybe we'll get a sub for me. I don't know. But when I come back to the pod and in main chat, I will give Chad plenty of flowers if he can pull this one off. But I'm picking Hen. What about you guys, Paul? What do you think?
20-0 Beach Dogs.
All right, Connor.
I believe in Ryan Henry.
Damn. All right. Chad is not going to be very happy when he sees this tomorrow and sees everybody dumping on him.
Chad knows exactly what I think about his team.
All right.
He's not going to be mad at me. I can tell you that.
I have Chad as a playoff team, but I think Hen's team's just in a different class in general, and especially after these first 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, how about your matchup against Jack, Connor? We'll start with you for that one.
I'm mostly confident in this, mostly because I hope that I've proven outside of my top 2 or 3, I have some semblance of pitching depth. With Jack, if he was 50% healthier, I might call the quote unquote upset against myself. But I think that with how my first 2 weeks have gone and his extensive injured list, I have more bodies, I have more room to maneuver, and I think I have double the prospects he does to buy someone in a worst case scenario. His team's got a shot, but I like mine more.
I'll echo that. It's just sad that he can't ice out a fully healthy team here because I would really love to look at these matchups and be like, damn, this is gonna be really interesting to see how he would stack up against you, Connor. But with his pitching being as depleted as it is, I just don't see it happening, Paul. What about you?
I think it's pretty wild to say that we might be looking at the 3-0 Amarillo Sod Poodles, but I think we're going to be looking at 3-0 Amarillo Sod Poodles because, yeah, like you guys already said it. I don't really have to say much more, but it looks like you have Robbie Ray and Ryan Nelson on double starts, Connor. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that it? Just those guys?
I think so. I might get Merrill Kelly for 2.
I mean, I think that's good enough. Like, again, the depth of pitching, I think, is the matchup that Jack's going to run into a lot this year, especially early on. I mean, I don't know. I do like his bats a lot. You know, he's got really good young bats. But just, yeah, after playing you this week, Connor, I think I think you would admit as well that it was a little inflated this week. You know, like you said, like I called, by the way, I never addressed it formally on this podcast, the Max Muncy thing. Um, you know, that doesn't really happen. And that I don't think that's something you can count on. And I'm not saying you have to either, but um, yeah, I think you were a little high in your points this past week, but I think you're definitely a 650-ish team week in, week out. That's gonna net you a lot of wins. So yeah, I will take Connor's team. I will take 3-0 Poodles.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to my matchup against Jab. Fantrax is giving me a 51 to 49% chance to win, which is kind of interesting. He has a two-start Crochet and Grant Holmes week, and Scooball doesn't pitch until Saturday, so that's a positive for me. And I have Mizurowski and Gavin Williams going for 2, so we'll see. I'm very interested to see where my team's at against Jab. If he goes 0-3, there might be some fireworks, and for pure chaos purposes, I want to see how that would go. And forgive me, it's a 51-49% chance for Jab, not me. I read it the wrong way. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a test, and my goal was to be 2-1 after this 3-week stretch. And if I didn't beat Smell here, I want to beat Jab and keep that goal alive. So Do you guys think I have any shot? Connor, start with you.
I think you have a really good shot, but I think you have three things going against you. One, Jab is more pissed off than you are because you're 1-1 and he's 0-2. Number two, I think Jab just has a better offense. And number three, you mentioned Garrett Crochet to start week. I do think that the Larks do put up a very competitive week, but Jab is very overdue. So I agree with Paul's assessment of my team that I'm more in the 630 to 660 range every week. I think this is going to be one of those where Jab comes out and has 720, 750, and we're saying a week from today that the former Sea Dogs, now Ridge Yaks, are back.
Well, I hope you're wrong about that, but Paul, go ahead.
I'll ask Connor this because I'm not going to ask you this, Bracton. Would you think maybe going into the season or even right now, what's the bigger upset? Scott beating Jab like he did, or Bracton beating Jab this week? What do you think's a bigger upset?
I would say Scott being Jab because I think Bracton did typically have higher rankings going into the year, and his week one proved that he can get at those lofty point totals at least at times needed to go up against the Cody's, Jabs, etc.
Right. All right. So I do agree at the end of the day. I think Scott beating Jab was a bigger upset. I only say that just because of where Bracton was last year and where Jab was last year. Being an 0-20 team to take down a team like Jabs, I don't think anybody would think that. Having said that, I do think this could be somewhat pretty close. Within 100, I think for sure. I'll take. I just can't see a world where Jab goes 0-3. Like that world is just wild to me. The fact that he's 0-2 is wild to me. Um, like Connor said, Eric Crochet's having 2 starts this week. One of them is against Connor's twins. Um, yeah, crazier things have happened already in this league this year. But yeah, I would be surprised at the end of the day if we're talking about an 0-3 Jab team. Which is no slight against you, Bracton. I just wanted to point that out too. Because again, I've said it before on this podcast that I was wrong about your team, and B, you have a very good team. I would be surprised if we're talking.
I would be surprised too, to be honest. But I think that if we're talking 2 starts, maybe Mizurowski cancels out the Crochet 2 starts, maybe, or it's close. But Gavin Williams is going to do better in his 2 starts than Grant Holmes will, and that would be the difference. So if we're taking the rest of my pitching staff versus the rest of Chad or Jabs, I don't know. I think that maybe there's something there, but like y'all said, it's the offense. His bats have gotten off to some slow starts. We'll see. I'm interested. It'll be something.
I think there is a world that you have more pitching points this week than he will. I think that world could exist. I don't see the world that he has or that you have more batting points.
Well, Murakami needs to wake up, and then we'll see. But speaking of wake up, I want to see what we're going to talk about with John Haidt versus Scott. I want to see John Haidt kind of rebound here. I think that more than 1 point from Michael Bush is coming for John Haidt. I think that Framber's not going to go negative again, but wouldn't it be something if Scott knocked off John Haidt and Jab in back-to-back weeks here? So from the chaos aspect, this would be pretty interesting. But I don't think Scott set his lineups yet because it's 91 to 9% chance for John Haidt to win so far. I'm gonna pick John Height, but maybe Scott is starting something here, and maybe this is the beginning of a run. Do you guys think that it's gonna be closer than we think? It's Connor.
Eovaldi's could be on a 2-start week for Height. If I didn't see that, I would have called the upset. I do think John just has the better team with a track record. I know that's weird saying the day after Scott scores 703 points, but I think the Yard Goats win by 25, 30 points. This might be the closest matchup of the week.
Wow. Okay, Paul, do you agree there?
I actually don't. I think Height blows him out. I mean, Scott's team. I know what we were praising it and all, and I do praise his team for sure. But Connor said Eovaldi has a 2-star week. So does Framber Valdez. I mean, arguably besides Otani, his 2 best pitchers. Yeah, I think there's a real chance that Height gets into 800 this week. And even if we see a 600-point performance from Scott, 800 to 600, that's still a pretty decent margin. So yeah, it's no shade on Scott. I just think that Height's due for a massive rebound this week. So that's what I'm kind of calling.
All right. I think we are gonna go. Did I get your thoughts on that, Connor?
You sure did.
All right, awesome. Just wanted to make sure. We're gonna go to Emmerich versus Tita in Tita's first rebranded week. Emmerich is a 55 to 45% favorite at the moment, but both, I think the Fantrax projections around 30 points. I kind of agree with this. I think it could be a closer matchup than we think. I think Emmerich's kind of maybe due for a cool off after beating John Height, but I still think he's going to win this matchup. But I think that Tito will keep it close with all of the trades, but I think he's due for some kind of bad starts from these Hancocks and Griffins and Assads. I don't know that they keep all that up, but who knows? Maybe they're not even on the team by the time they make their starts. I can't even really evaluate that. All I know is Tita's going to get to 12 by any means necessary, and it is going to be a fight for Emmerich. He's going to get the full Tita experience in his first time playing this week. But I'm still picking Emmerich. Connor, who are you taking in this matchup?
Here's my upset call. And here's the question for both of you. Besides Freddie Peralta, who is a really inspiring starting pitcher on Emmerich's roster?
Let me look.
This week or in general?
In general, healthy.
I like Andrew Abbott, and I like Drew Rasmussen, but
Not healthy.
those are more 4s and 5s than 2s and 3s. I can agree with you there. But
Fair question.
So, I mean, Emmerich has the resources to buy that pitching. I'm not going to question that. I question if he's going to pull that lever in week 3. So, Emmerich does not have that crazy an advantage over Tita in the pitching department. And I trust Tita's ability to flip bats over anybody. So, it's a close matchup. I mean, Fantrax has it within 30, but the Sounds do not like excessively losing. Maybe they're not making the playoffs, but Tita's going to give it his all every week. And I think he's just going to try harder for this win than Emmerich will. So, Sounds 1 and 2.
Paul, you agree with that?
Well, breaking, by the way, as we were going into this matchup, that Tita changed his team back to the Nashville Sounds.
Yes, that's awesome.
Thank the Lord for that.
Thank God.
Because when you said Emmerich versus Tita, I was like, wait, where are the Sounds? Trying to find the matchup. So, fortunately, thank goodness for that. Back to Nashville.
Thought it was a glitch, honestly. I saw the Sounds come back. I was like, oh, I didn't think anything of it. But
Yeah. So you think it's a close match, or you think Tita wins? Is that what you said, Connor?
I think Tita wins by 30.
Here's the thing. Obviously, we know that Tita's gonna make some trades this week. My contention here is that it seems as though Tita has set his lineup for the week, and Emmerich has not, and he's still projected to be down by 30. I mean, once Emmerich actually has a full lineup set, I feel like that's even bigger. So yeah, I'm pretty confident at least that Teed is going to win a couple matchups this year. I just think Emmerich's team is too strong, and I agree with what you said pitching wise. I agree with all that, but I mean, and I know that Yelich got hurt today, and it doesn't seem like it's a good injury, but there's a lot there for Emmerich, and like you said, an injury to Yelich is almost insignificant to him because he can just go buy another outfielder. Like he has the resources to do that. Like so. I don't know. I think I think Emmerich wins this one. But I'll say it for every matchup that Tita's in. I don't think it's decided until the weekend. So yeah, and that's obviously that's a massive credit to Tita. So
Well, it might be matchup of the week. Honestly, just from looking at it, it's either that or if my team can stay close with Jab. But I kind of want to go and shoot my shot here on the last one with the 2-0 Smell Chihuahuas versus 2-0 Cody. This could be my upset, maybe. I haven't fully decided yet. I don't know what Smell. I don't know what the starts look like for Smell, who he's got two starting, but it looks like he's got 14 starts this week to Cody's 12. I know he's going to cut it down, obviously, but that must mean he must have one or two going to start. I don't know who it is, but maybe this is the week we see Cody's unfortunate pitching injuries stack up on him. I think that Smell might have a pitching advantage in this. I think Cody has the bat advantage, but I think this is going to be a much closer game than we think. I think that both Smell and I had a stinker this week with our point totals, and both of us are going to rebound next week. And I think that this could be probably mid sixes for each of them. I don't think either breaks 700. I think both of them are somewhere in the sixes, and this is a 50 to 60 point game decided on Sunday in one of the directions. But I'm just going to say Cody now, just because I think that he's got the better roster. But I think that Smell's going to keep this close, and it'll be very, very interesting. And it wouldn't surprise me if Smell pulls this off. So, Paul, we'll start with you. Do you agree with that, or am I crazy?
you're not picking the upset.
I'm not picking the upset, but I'm giving massive props.
Okay. Okay.
So
I wasn't. Yeah. Okay.
it could be, and I
Um.
wouldn't be surprised. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Of course, it could be.
So,
But so yeah. So with this, it looks like Bradish has a two starter.
oh, never
Kirby has
mind. Whoever has Bradish now, it's over.
Smell does.
Smell does. Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind. I'm confident in Cody now.
Well, how interesting would it be if Bradish with his two starts takes down Cody with his 0 MI starts?
I bet you that those two Bradish starts combined for 25 max.
What happens if it's the over?
I don't know. What are we betting? We
I
want
don't
to
know.
bet a
What do we bet?
worst by the All Star break, if that's allowed. I don't even know. Whatever. Let's bet a worst.
We'll take it offline, Bracton.
All right.
But so yeah, so that I think that's an interesting point though. The Bradish having two starts and MI potentially with 0. And how that could impact this matchup. I will be circling back to that next week. But that one, Kirby and McClanahan, it looks like for Smell, all having 2 starts. Pretty significant. And then for Cody, it looks like Mackenzie Gore and Yuri Perez and Brian Wu having 2 starts.
Okay, I like the Cody pick now. I didn't realize what.
So yeah, I also will pick Cody in this one. Mel knows I'm a day one Chihuahua guy. But yeah, that's tough to take down. You know, Brian Wu having 2 starts. I don't care who you're playing, what's happening. Like tough to take down. Plus, you factor in all the bats that Cody has. You know, I know that Smell has good ones too, but yeah, Cody's kind of, in my opinion, been underperforming this year, and I think he's due for a get right week, and I think that might be this week. Um, yeah, I think Smell clears 600, but it would not surprise me if we're talking over 700 for Cody this week. So I will take Cody. Um, I know it looks close, but we'll see how that pans out at the end of this week.
All right, Connor, finish us off. Do you pick the upset, or are we going with Cody for all of us here?
I have this as Hot Rod 640 to El Paso 620. Kyle Brash is going to score 50 points, but Brian Wu is going to score 60. I just looked up that Braves Phillies is Sunday night. I know Cody's not going to have too much exposure to those teams, and I didn't think Smell did either. So I don't know if I can get ballsy enough to say that we're going to be watching the literal last game of the week for this, but I know that, I mean, both of them are off to 2-0 starts. I think both of them Cody has proven to be a 600-point team at a minimum over the years. Smell's gone off well the last couple of weeks, so I'm really looking forward to watching this. I wish I could call a Smell upset, but the Hot Rods need a get right game as to what Paul said, and I think they're going to do just enough for this win.
All right, so I think that wraps us up for all of our matchups this week. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so that concludes our podcast for this week. Really fun tonight with you guys. Do we have any last thoughts before we sign off here? We only have 20 minutes left of film time. So, Paul, do you have anything more? Or we just, what do you think?
First of all, future happy birthday to your girlfriend.
Thank you. I'll tell her.
We'll miss you next week. We'll see how the pod goes next week. I know I'll be on. The following week, I will not be on. Just a housekeeping note, I guess, for this one. I'll be on vacation. Trying to think what else. I mean, personally, I can say it's bullshit that I played the top scoring team week 1 and the top scoring team week 2. Whoever the scheduler maker is, just fuck that guy. But yeah, it's been a great first 2 weeks, first 2 matchups across the league. A lot of upsets, a lot of surprise, a lot of not surprise, I guess. But yeah, it's going well, I think, so far. It's a credit to everybody in this league. Real quick shout out for Emmerich and Nick, the 2 new guys in this league. Emmerich with him getting his first win this week. Nick probably getting his first win this coming week against me. But yeah, they fit in seamlessly, and it's compliments to everybody in this league for fitting them in so seamlessly. And yeah, this league is the best. You guys make it the best. Me, Cody, and Bracton don't make it the best. It's you guys. Pretty much all I had. I didn't really have too much else prepared. So yeah, go Tides. Hopefully we can get a win this week. I don't know. I think the last time I started 0-2, I traded Jose Ramirez. I can confidently say that won't be happening this week. Maybe I'll trade Noah Schultz to Bracton if he wants to go down that road.
I'll be texting you after we get this done. I gotta
I'll be ready.
figure it out.
I'll be ready. But yeah, and obviously a quick shout out for Connor for hopping in last minute. I know Cody had a last second issue. We were getting ready to record, and he kind of had to step out. So we appreciate the fill in. We hope to not have that happen too often this year. Me, Cody, and Bracton have all kind of committed ourselves for these Sunday night podcasts. But yeah, that's really all I had. Good luck to everybody this week, obviously, except for Nick. And yeah.
All right, Connor, last thoughts.
I couldn't say anything better than what Paul just did. The GMs make the great poodle party. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, I just decided to check my 30-man scores. I haven't looked at that all week, and I lost to Hen by 7 points, which is fucking awesome. I hate this league. It sucks, and I can't win it because, of course, I left Max Muncy's 3 home run game on my bench for Nolan Arenado. So just can't stand it. It makes me so fucking mad. But anyway, going back to what we're talking about for this league, I really want to win this week against Jab, and I'm really happy that my team is now competent to where I can be in matchups every week, win against Scott, and lose by under 100 to Smell. It's been a lot of fun. This is the first time I've really been locked in and playing for a little bit, so happy to be engaged, be involved, have everyone else be engaged and involved, and it's just that I think that the league's in a great spot. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Connor, for filling in, and we'll see you all. I'll see you all in 2 weeks, but looking forward to watching next week. All right.